Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Jasmine Marie Nolan Eccles, and I'm the chair of the City Charter Commission. I am pleased to call to order the third meeting of the Charter Commission, organized on behalf of the City of St. Louis for the purpose of amending the City Charter. We welcome all members of the public who have joined us in person here on the second floor boardroom of 1520 Market Street. STL TV is streaming this live to YouTube channel for everyone's review both during the event of the meeting and after. Our first agenda item includes a roll call that will be conducted by Secretary Bobo.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I will conduct the roll. If you would, when I mention your name, please say here or present. Commissioner Crossland. Commissioner Dwight.
Present.
Commissioner Garth.
Here.
Commissioner Grant. Commissioner Intagliata.
Here.
Commissioner Nolan Eccles.
Here.
Commissioner Riley.
Present.
Commissioner Sheridan.
Here.
And I am also here. I am Commissioner Bobo. I will also call the names of the non-voting commission members. The Honorable Darlene Green. Thank you. The Honorable Joseph Vollmer. Director, Christine Ingracia. City Councilor Sheena Hamilton. And Director Sonia Gray. And the final name is Mr. Jake Hummel. I'm hearing that he notified as well that he, okay. And with that, the roll is complete. We do have a quorum. And now we will take a moment to approve the, review and approve the meeting minutes.
We can entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the September 6th meeting minutes.
Seconded.
Who said the second? Sorry.
Commissioner Riley.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All of those in favor of approving the commission minutes?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
All of those not in favor?
Passes.
Thank you, Secretary Bobo. The third item on the agenda is my proposed amendment of updating or amending the rules of order and procedure and adding parliamentary functionality to the commission's structure. And in doing so, I would like to entertain a motion to, one, add parliamentary structure and order to the commission for the rules of order that we have in place currently, and to add Commissioner Garth as the parliamentarian appointment for that capacity and for that role.
So moved. Second.
Have a second? Okay. All of those in favor of the additional parliamentary discussion?
Can you just share a little more about the rationale for the person I'm not, what's the rationale for the position?
The rationale for the parliamentarian space is to make sure that meetings have order, they are conducted in a timely fashion, and that they are orchestrated by Robert's Rule of Order. There's language in our rules of order and procedure that give us option on whether or not to use Robert's Rule, but I think it's just appropriate to keep it consistent and keep us in a very structured fashion using what most commissions are utilizing to keep meetings in an orderly and organized fashion and conducting business.
So I'm fine with that. I also want to make a request of the staff, if we all agree. I know sometimes professionally for work, my team will create a script that I follow even as pastor, so I'm not trying to come keep up with rules on the fly. If they could just give us a script to follow, we also follow that to make sure that we're in line with whatever the rules are.
I agree.
That would help us to do a little bit more work on the articles and let the staff prepare the order for how we have to proceed. This is a recommendation.
I agree.
I like that.
Do we have any further discussion on the motion that's on the floor related to parliamentary order and amendment? Okay, so it was motioned and seconded.
Mm-hmm.
Just to clarify, you're moving to amend, and then you're going to later elect, right? Yes, I would
Yes.
prefer to, yes. Okay, so we're taking the vote currently.
Yes.
All of those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All of those not in favor? Okay, Secretary Bobo? Did we pass it?
Yes.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the chair's report, and I sent that to everyone via email. It's a high-level overview of the September meetings, special meetings, the public meeting that we had, and just giving us all a consensus of where we are in the process. I noted that the strategic planning for the commission is underway. The executive team will be working on it for the duration of the year. When it is finalized, you all will have it, but I did complete and finalize a timeline and schedule and benchmarks for everyone, the work groups organized, and I did get buckets from the city councilor's office that itemizes how the articles can be broken down, best fit for us. And I would like us to spend a moment to review those.
Just a quick moment, Madam Chair. You made two motion recommendations. One motion was passed on the amendment of the rules to add a parliamentarian, but we have not made the motion and the election of that parliamentarian,
Okay.
the office of parliamentarian.
We're doing this separately. That's
Okay,
fine.
yeah.
So I'm gonna go back. I would like to.
Don't mean to be pedantic, but.
No, that's why we're getting this.
Good parliamentarian.
So I would like to entertain a motion to appoint Commissioner Garth to the position of parliamentarian for the City Charter Commission.
I move.
Second. Okay.
Can there be an amendment to that we have a script provided by the commission staff?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So Secretary Bobo, we're adding that the City Councilor's office provide us any additional rules and regulations, policies and procedures pertaining to how we order business to be provided to us.
Is
In
that-
addition to,
Is that outside of this?
I believe there are some things that are outside of this that we want to make sure we're in alignment with that's not documented. Is that correct?
I'm asking for a script for each of our public meetings,
A script related to what specifically?
a verbatim of what we are to say, the rules to follow, to walk through the agenda for each meeting.
Okay.
So
Does such thing exist?
Yes.
Okay.
What he's basically asking for, of course.
Okay.
What he's basically asking for is that like the type of language that is used, the type of, he's asking for the type of language used, when you use it, and so on and so forth in those particular things. So it's sort of an itemized list of do's and don'ts.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's,
Is it something you can provide? Okay. So the amended motion is that the city council's office will provide that script for us
Commission staff.
and
yes.
have that for us at the next scheduled meeting?
But we're treating that as a separate motion, is that
Is
correct?
it a separate motion? No, he wants an amendment to
Oh,
this motion
okay.
for that.
I'm asking for an amendment, but it could be separate.
It would more or less be it would be another motion. So it's so that'd be a third motion. So the first motion we got through. The second motion now is the appointment, and then you make a motion for that.
Okay. So we have the second motion on the floor for the appointment. It's been moved, it's been seconded. All commissioners in favor of the motion on the floor?
Aye.
Aye.
All commissioners opposed?
It passes.
Thank you. So we've moved that Commissioner Garth is the parliamentarian for the City Charter Commission, henceforth. The third motion that we're looking to entertain, so we're entertaining a motion for the city councilor's office to provide us a script for public meetings and probably add to public hearings, and it to be provided to us in the next by the next public meeting. At this time, we'll entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
All commissioners in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All commissioners opposed?
It passes.
Thank you. Do we have any more discussion, additions related to the parliamentarian order or the public meeting or hearing order and structure that we need to discuss?
Nope, that was fun. Keep going.
All right. We're not gonna make this fun for you.
He's already having a plan.
Okay, I'm going back to where I was in the chair's report, which is the fourth item on the agenda, where I itemized the commissioners, both voting and non-voting, into 3 different groups. The concept of doing so was to make sure that everyone has an even amount of dispersed articles to amend, and that we all have equal responsibility associated to what we're reviewing. And in this forum, we would need to discuss what each group's dates for your work groups would look like. If we want to conduct the work groups in this meeting forum or in a virtual platform, we would need to make those decisions within the next item on the agenda, which is number 5, where we break out into discussions for recommendations related to the articles. But I wanted to make sure that I got this to you guys at the beginning of the meeting, as requested in the last meeting. At this time, I'm entertaining any discussion, recommendations, requests, or debate from Commissioner Garth related to related to the bundle presented to you all for the groups.
Can I ask?
Is
Yes.
I noticed President Green is listed in the.
Speak up, please.
Sure, I noticed that President Green is listed in the working group, and I'm serving as her appointee.
yeah.
Okay. She has to be, she's listed on something. I can remove it.
Darlene
from
Green
the-
is a commissioner.
President Green or Comptroller Green?
I'm thinking it's Comptroller Green.
Oh.
So we'll just add that in there.
Okay.
Perfect.
Just add Comptroller?
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
no problem. Any other questions related to the work group layout, structure, timeline, benchmarks, schedules?
So just for review,
Yes.
so you're saying that city council's office suggested these 3 buckets, these
Yes.
groups? Okay.
The city councilor's office suggested the 3 buckets that I outlined,
Mhm.
and let me go over them.
And the 3
Is
buckets
the-
of articles?
The 3 buckets of the articles that they'll be separated into.
Mm-hmm.
And those 3 buckets are, because last meeting we wanted buckets of the articles instead of a hard and fast separation of them. So the buckets given, the first one was legislation and taxes, including incorporation. The second bucket was executive personnel, legal, and miscellaneous. The third bucket was public service and finance.
Can you say those one more time?
The first bucket, incorporation, legislation, and taxes. The second bucket, executive, personnel, legal, and miscellaneous. The third bucket, public service and finance. Is that accurate, Commissioner Henderson? Okay.
The first one is legislative, you're saying?
Incorporation, legislation, and taxes.
Legislation.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So those are the three buckets that the city council's office deemed would be necessary to separate out the articles in order to organize them accordingly across the three groups that were split up evenly with no particular rhyme or reason for who goes into what group. Do the buckets make sense, Commissioner Riley?
Yes.
So to move forward to the next item on the agenda, if there's no discussion for the chair's report, I think the first thing that we need to do is determine how the work groups want to work. And in doing so, the commissioners assigned to each of the three work groups have been outlined.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
You went past the chair's report. Was the timeline part of that, or is that part of the next one?
It's in the bundle. It's in the work group process that I sent. The timeline is in there.
Right. Sorry. Like, discussion-wise, do we just move past that section?
Past the chair's report or past the section of?
Was the timeline part of the chair's report, or is it part of this
It
next
was just
section?
documentation. So
Okay.
when we break out into the next, so the item number 5 on the agenda, when we break out into the work groups and our individual work groups, you all can reference the timeline when you're making your decisions on how you want to proceed with meeting for your work group. And then we need to come back together to make the final decisions
Good.
and kind of move from there so we can get the ball rolling. Does that make sense?
Yes. So it'd be better if there are any, because I remember at the last one, there was a space, if any commissioners wanted to look at it in between to like have discussion today. Would you prefer like overall timeline stuff come after the work groups break out?
Right now, today, we need to determine how the work groups want to meet. And then you all can review your articles in your particular work groups. But today, for the purpose of the public meeting, we need to determine when each work group is meeting and how we want to go about doing that. And then we can go into timeline. But I've outlined a timeline and benchmarks and everything for everyone in our process. So we're good.
One of the.
Yeah, if we'd have any thoughts on that overall one.
Yeah.
If there's space for that, that
Yeah,
would be
it's
great.
space.
Sure.
I have a question. There were several things after the presentation that was made the last Zoom call that we requested in terms of follow-up with the department directors, leaders about their input for, as far as some of these articles in the charter go, et cetera. And have we worked out the timeline in terms of when, the last thing I saw, I thought said that stuff was in progress. Are we going to do some of that stuff in person by
So
Zoom, or how's
today,
that
we need
gonna
to
happen?
determine what we need from those departments. We
Okay.
have not itemized or outlined what we need from the department. So today, we have to do that individually in our work groups and then collectively as a commission
Okay.
so that we can get that to the city council's
Because
office.
it seems to me that the work of the work groups themselves really, at least from my point of view, might not start, at least fully, until we've had a chance to get that, those details, that information.
I think some of the work can begin prior to that information because the schedule, the timeline that I've presented gives us 3 working drafts to do over the next year. And it gives us up until January to have an initial first draft. So we have time for the departments to get us their reports from their work and their efforts. Right now, we just need to get into the articles and do the preliminary assessment of what it is that we're amending. and start working together related to discussion. But the departments will be getting us reports once we determine what we want to report on.
But to follow up to Mr. Carlson's point, I think it kind of was made that a memo went out from the mayor to department
Yeah.
heads to
Right.
ask, need to be updated, is that, so they're giving us something that they see currently
Yes.
Right.
as what needs to be, okay. Just wanna make sure
Right,
I'm
and
clear.
I'm just curious whether there's any more information in terms of timeline of when that information might be coming to us,
So I know,
et cetera.
I know you all may want to know different things, so I think it makes sense for you to determine what it is that you want from the department.
Right.
And then we can answer that, right? I think that's what you're trying to say, right? That's exactly what I'm saying. Today, we have to determine what we want from those departments. So I know from this end of the table, we were asking for operational perspectives, budgets, those kinds of things last session. Over the special meetings came up, we want to know efficiencies and deficiencies and those kinds of things. So I think today, we need to determine what we want to know from these departments, the elected officials, everybody involved, so that those reports make sense when they're turned in for us to use them. But that's why I wanted to quickly move into the work group discussions so that we can start to determine some of those things.
I promise I'm not going to belabor the point.
Go ahead.
I thought some of that was, my understanding based on the briefings was that that was already in process and being turned in at some point. But you're saying we need to refine what the ask is.
Yes,
So
we
that
need
they
to
know
refine what
to
the
say.
ask is.
Got it.
Yeah.
They know you want information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And to your point, Director Milberg from the mayor's office did indicate she had reached out to people, and if you want more specific information, but I think we're talking about similar things, but
Yeah,
not the same.
right,
thing.
Right,
yeah.
right.
I think that might be what it is.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
You're welcome.
okay.
Yeah, because it would seem to me that the very first step would be, and I thought we discussed this at the last Zoom call, that with regards to the charter itself, understanding the parts of their work as related to the charter that they thought worked well and did not work well was really an important aspect of filling in some of the information that you were able to provide to us in a kind of a broad umbrella, but making it more understandable to us in terms of our role.
Absolutely, and I think what the work we'll do tonight, it sounds like will supplement what the directors are already working.
Right.
Commissioner Crossan, are you clear on what the process is?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that
Oh,
we were.
okay. To move forward in the agenda, the first aspect of what number 5 on the agenda is splitting up into the work groups. The first thing we need is for work groups to determine how you all want to work within your work group and determining what your scheduled work group dates and meetings will be so that we can communicate that to the public and proceed forward with organizing the work group structure.
So you would like all work groups to also be public meetings?
The work groups, actually, I would prefer that they be public meetings, but it's a forum that we can do, just like the special meetings that we conducted this month. The work groups can be however you all decide you want to conduct them, but we need to come to a consensus on how we want to do that. And I think each individual group may decide a different way or a different approach. I don't want to dictate how that happens or how that looks, but I do think we need to discuss it.
Okay. But, and just, you want it to be recorded on Google Meet and then transcribed, which I'm assuming is an
It's a-
automatic
yeah,
function
it's a
of,
function.
okay, Google Meet. And then we will provide that into the folder and it's available to anybody.
So we can separate into the work groups for the approximate 15 minutes that's allotted for it. And just remember that the concept is to determine how you want to do how the group consensus wants to complete their work. and what days and times in which you're going to meet as a group for your articles work. Does that make sense to everyone?
Are there any expectations in terms of how frequently we would meet or anything like that? Or is that left up to each working group?
Left up to each working.
Okay.
Do we need to determine, or does everyone know what working groups they're in?
For the benefit of the public, do you guys want to just have the commissioners who are on sort of discussion?
A part of it.
Yeah.
So, just go one group at a time?
Right.
Okay, that's fine. Because I also want us to, we need to determine that. We need to determine how we're gonna orchestrate our groups. Okay, group one
There's just two of us.
that are here.
Mhm.
Okay. What days and times would you guys like to conduct your work groups, and how would you like to conduct your work group? Any thoughts?
Well, there's virtual and want to do them in, of course, in the evening or
Yeah, I think in the evening would be good.
evening.
That generally mostly works. And I suppose then it's how many times per month that it needs to meet. So we're moving towards a first benchmark in January of needing to have drafts of recommendations. Is that correct?
Yes.
It's a big task, honestly.
Yeah, it is.
That I guess for me it's a little related to how the like overall meetings relate to them. So I think depending on that, it could be once per month or it might be twice per month. That is needed, honestly.
Yeah,
We can start with once per month and
we can start
move
with once
to
per month, and
more if needed.
as it progresses, we can go with as needed. But ultimately, we can do like either once a month, and we can do this either like the second or third Thursday of the month,
Depending, yeah.
depending. Yeah. And then, of course, some special meetings, of course, notwithstanding. I think that would work. And of course, being it virtual, it would just be easier, so that way we can have it that particular way. It's also televised, and of course we can entertain public comment and whatnot, or public input and everything on that for the particular work groups. So that way we're keeping it all above board and so fresh and so clean.
I agree. Did we determine second or third? And which day of the week? Or third week and which day?
This month, I could do the third Thursday, the
Third
19th
Thursday.
of October.
And what time?
November, it would have to be a different Thursday, but
Okay. What about for an appropriate time? Let's make it 5:30.
6, sometimes it's easier for
6.
people post-work.
All right. For the sake of the minutes, group one is meeting third Thursday of the month virtually at 6 p.m.
Except for November.
Yes.
Got it.
And Madam Chair, can you reiterate what the categories for Group 1 are? Because when we listed them initially, we went in a different order.
And any chance you had like the article numbers?
Yeah, Articles
So,
1 through 26.
Group one. It's not, so it's public service and finance of the bucket. That
Is group one?
That group one has.
I thought that
Oh, I
was.
thought-
I thought it was.
Those were just those were listing the three groups,
Oh,
but
listing the
not
three groups,
Yeah,
okay.
but not in
Not
a
the
particular
order,
order.
yeah.
So that's why I wanted to clarify
Okay,
that for
yeah.
y'all.
Okay.
That was fun.
So group one is assigned to the bucket, public service and finance, for the sake of the minutes as well.
Do you have the
Can you
exact
put that-
articles? By any chance?
You said the name of the article?
Thank you.
Yeah.
The articles are also outlined in the work group bundle too, that fit into that bucket.
Okay, that's awesome.
You see it? Okay.
And just for an administrative reminder, a lot of these documents are also available via our Google Drive. If you're able to.
Which one is it?
Yeah, I know, they're not very distinct.
Okay, I'm gonna move forward to group two. Group two, Commissioner Riley, Commissioner Crossland, and Commissioner Intagliato. Pronounce your last name for me.
Intagliata.
Intagliato. Okay, I got it. So, group two, we need your discussion to occur regarding when you would like to meet, how often you would like to meet pertaining to your work groups.
Well, I might as well go ahead and start by saying that I think I concur that virtual is probably a lot better than in person. That perhaps once a month to start would be good, so that we're doing the same thing that the other one is, but I'm happy to go more than that if people think it is. My biggest struggle, and I think that, and so I'll sort of cede to you guys to figure out where your schedule might work, and I'll see what I can do about it, is that I don't have a consistent day or time in which I can just say like the third, whatever it is of the month. What I can say is that I probably am more flexible in the afternoons than I am in the evenings. I don't know how that works with your schedules, but it will be easier that way than trying to find an evening, but it doesn't mean an evening is impossible. But it may very well mean that it's a Wednesday sometimes and a Thursday another time, or something like that, rather than one night. So those are kind of some of my considerations, and then I leave it up to you guys to kind of figure out what works best for you.
I would feel that, I'd feel much more comfortable with starting with 2 meetings a month, given the timeline. And since we're meeting the first week of the month, I would propose that we meet the second week of the month to sort of respond to the previous meeting, and then the fourth week of the month to get ready for the next meeting, if that's comfortable with you both. And Commissioner Crossland, you're saying the afternoon is better for you?
Late afternoon, early afternoon to late, anytime from maybe 1 to about 5, 6, in that time frame would be ideal. But, you know, certain evenings work also, depending on what particular evenings.
Okay. And Commissioner Riley, what works best for you time-wise and maybe day-wise?
Thursday afternoon is more consistently better if I know in advance.
Okay. And if we did Thursday afternoons at 1 as a start, and if we needed to vary it, we could. Mr. Crossland, would that work for you?
What time?
Thursday afternoon, the second week of the month, and the fourth week of the month is what we could start with at 1 o'clock, 1 p.m.?
Generally, early in the afternoon is good.
Okay. So 1 p.m. would be good for you?
And so that would be October the 12th and the 12th and the, I apologize, I don't have my glasses on.
While she's checking her calendar, I would just interject
I
that.
can't hear you, Christine.
While she's checking her calendar, I would just interject that we want to make sure STLTV is available.
Did what?
Are we doing them publicly?
STLTV.
I thought we were
we
going
were
to
gonna do
record
them on
these on
Google.
Google Meet.
Google Meet.
Yeah, Google Meet.
So they're going to
They
be.
Does that,
STLTV
uses Zoom, so it has to be on Zoom, I think.
if you
Zoom.
want it to be on STLTV.
Well, I'm okay with Zoom. I don't have a problem with it, but
I'm just saying that, especially for afternoon hours, sometimes that could conflict with other public meetings happening. So, I mean, I think for everyone, we may need to double check that STL TV is available, but especially for a 1 o'clock in the afternoon meeting.
So I want to
I think
be,
we can so go ahead.
I want to be clear, when there is no quorum in the work groups and the work is happening related to the articles, STL TV is mandated to be present for all work group meetings?
No,
Or is,
what
am
I'm
I?
saying is if you want them to be on STL TV uses Zoom. So I thought I heard you guys saying you wanted them to be public, but.
No, I want them to be accessible to the public, but I don't think the requirement of STL TV being the recording facet for it is necessary, because they may add days. We're hearing discussion of additional days and times that may also not be scheduled enough for STL TV to be present in advance.
So you're saying to record the meeting and then post it?
Yes,
We're
it's
not
because
live.
you can give the links to the Google Meet to the public on an agenda for the public to be able to attend in addition to, and we can also put it on the charter's
Let me just
YouTube.
clarify. So we're saying we're doing the meetings and they'll be live virtually, or recording them and then posting them after the meeting is over?
I think both avenues are available. I think, so I'll say this, Google Meet, I have streamed to YouTube, and I have had visitors attend Google Meets. And I'm also able to save and upload to YouTube channels. So what I want to be clear of is STL TV required to be there for all of our working meetings in order for YouTube to
I wasn't
be?
saying it was a requirement, I was saying I wanted, was
Okay.
stream it live on STL TV.
Well, that was the question that Commissioner Gracia stated, is making sure that STL TV is able to be present. Or did I hear that correctly?
I think so. I think we just need to be clear about what the goal is. If we want the meeting to be accessible to the public, then I think it likely should go through STL TV. I think if you're interested in Google Meet, that's something that we might have to bring back. I don't know what the security is like on that and some other issues.
Well, I know that all of the city's setup for their operating system is Google. The Google workspace for the city
But
is what's used. So if it's not secure, I would be
We still
concerned.
continue to use Google Meet for
yeah.
public meetings because of security issues. It was decided that we would
Related to hacking.
use Zoom. I'm not smart enough to understand
Okay.
why.
it's just the standard that the
So if it's
city-
going to be accessible to the public, it needs to be an STL TV scheduled live stream
I think
event.
that's the best practice.
So we need to determine, after we organize our dates and things, if we want to mandate the recording be for STL TV, and then we have to possibly have to determine if they're available for those regular meetings.
If we're,
Just, I think I don't want to sacrifice transparency, but I also want to make sure we have a path forward. One possible outcome is that the working groups are not necessarily public meetings, but they are captured and shared with the public after the fact. The challenge will be if the different working groups want to incorporate public comment into their working group meetings, then we may need to use a platform that allows that to happen. But, and I'm fine either way, I just know that we probably need to get these on the calendar, and I think each working group would want to think about, is the priority to have public comment at every working group meeting, or making sure that the discussion that takes place in the working group meetings is available to the public with full transparency after the meeting.
What's the process for having public comments, Commissioner?
The public comment will have to come from
Yeah.
the live streaming with STL TV.
Right. So you're saying that that's how you want to have the meetings then, if you want public comments?
It sounds like it. If it's going to be a true public meeting with public comments, then it would need to be through STL TV, is my understanding.
Okay. And so what we're saying is every one of these meetings will be scheduled for STL TV, and the way that we get onto STL TV is what?
Is through Zoom and through them setting up a link just like our meetings here are.
Right, so we have to request somebody to set these meetings ahead of time, then we log into them with some sort of invitation that we receive.
Identical to what we did.
Correct.
Right. Okay. And then how are public comments disseminated and seen as a participant in those meetings?
We take speaker slips, as you know.
I can't hear you.
Do you want to talk about this?
So, the way that public comment is received is by a speaker slip. And the speaker slips, if necessary for your particular work group, will be submitted to the work group, and you all would make mention to the public that has a speaker slip sent to you previously.
So we would receive that, and we would need to address that in that meeting,
Yes.
that work group meeting.
Yes.
And the individuals who submitted slips will be promoted to panelists. Like, you had a speaker slip at your last meeting, the person wasn't available. Had they been available, they would have been promoted to panelists and been able to make whatever comment that they had.
At any time in the meeting?
No, during the agenda.
Okay.
Can I ask a question of my fellow commissioners? What's a bigger priority for you as you're thinking about this? Having the working group meetings as public meetings, or making the meetings, the transcript and recording of the meeting available to the public after the fact? And again, I'm fine with either way, but I'm just really curious where everybody's thinking right now.
Me too.
Oh, I think for the sake of moving us forward, I personally would prefer for us to capture them in some way and then make that available at a later date. I think once we get deeper into the work, that will be a great opportunity to seek feedback. I almost think it's going to be even more critical at that point once we have enough edits and updates made, and we can provide those recommendations versus the onset. That's just my opinion. And I would want to have public input, at a later date. But I think in order to kind of show some momentum, get some movement going, it's my preference personally to begin the work, record the work for others to see, again, for transparency, and then move from there.
I would concur with Commissioner Bobo on that. It's easy to schedule a Zoom meeting for your group, record it, and then submit it.
Yeah, I'm also in agreement with that because it is not a quorum and no business can be conducted there. And it is simply informational and beginning to assess and consider recommendations, which then will come to this group on a monthly basis, and this group will set aside time for public comment. Then there will not be a situation where someone will miss the opportunity to comment. They simply will comment on a monthly basis rather than in these meetings. But I absolutely think it is vital then that we record that regardless of whether we move meeting dates around, that we have to do that, or anything, that we inform the chair, whenever something like that happens, and we are absolutely vigilant about taping, about recording, so that there is a record of the conversations at that point that can be postable. So that information is available to people to know what the thoughts were and how how they were developed over this period.
Any other perspective?
I think for me, I lean the other way. That's just from my set of experiences with commissions where the work groups were public. Can I just, is it okay if I just, I'm sorry. Oh, go ahead.
I know what you're gonna say. But the Zoom meeting, the public can still join your Zoom, right? But it just wouldn't live stream over STLTV, right? So the public can still come and join your Zoom, and
Sure.
then that Zoom be uploaded.
Yeah, that totally works.
Does that
And
address some of your?
Yeah, I think that's definitely an idea that could work. I think the second part that I was going to say is if we do go just the recording route, that's a great suggestion, that there could be ways that we structure the public meetings that lean up to it to maybe allow some of them to really focus in on one of the groups, which I appreciated the ways that it kind of broke it into some of that group discussions or recommendations, followed by then like a feedback process from the public. And so one way we could do that is to really dedicate, this November meeting is about those group one.
Which is done in the timeline, the schedule. In the schedule and the timeline of benchmarks that I outlined, it allows for one of the public meetings to strictly be focused on a particular group of articles and a particular group's work group discussions, followed by a public hearing in addition to that public meeting about those articles. So there will be more than enough opportunity for interaction with the public, which is more of my perspective on this question that's on the table. It's one thing to be transparent, it's another thing to be inclusive. And I just think with the schedule and timeline that we've outlined, it gives the public opportunity to be a part of the process, even if they're not physically in the work groups. So it promotes and provides open opportunity for the public to participate. Go ahead.
One additional question. I know we have our public hearings that will be scheduled, which will be very clear opportunities for the public to provide insights. In the document you shared with everybody, there's some checklists. One is opportunities for improvement, opportunities for innovation, and the other one is ongoing assessment and evaluation. And in both of those, in ongoing assessment and evaluation, was insight of current operations for this article that we're discussing, sought by the appropriate parties for the amendment, and the other one is opportunities for innovation, insight sought by appropriate parties. One, I'm just a little concerned that appropriate parties is a bit vague, and secondly, and we don't have to answer this today, but I think something we should answer because I don't know the answer to it. At what point do we solicit feedback, or what process do we solicit feedback from the general public or the citizenry on recommendations for charter amendments?
So the way that it was designed is that there are subcommittees that the executive team is going to work on creating, associated to the public, that's going to give us survey feedback as we're designing the amendments in each work group, which is also outlined in there. The appropriate parties, from my perspectives, related to the article, the departments, the elected officials, or the divisions related to that article.
Got it. Okay.
So that's what I mean by the appropriate parties. So some people, I've seen some commission work where the appropriate parties are not the appropriate parties, where the people that need to be contacted or communicated with or have these said documents or reports on pertaining to, you don't have insight or intel. So I would just prefer us to have the information we need related to the article that's in front of us from that department, division, or elected official, and not something created or designed from another anomaly of some kind that's not related.
So we will have a mechanism for recommendations to come to the commission from the general public?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay.
So I want to go back.
If we're going to go back to group two.
You all's group still has the final, we kind of went into discussion.
I was going to say that I'm available at 1 p.m. on both those dates. So back to that response.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I'm fine with that. I just want to quickly say, back to your point earlier, Mr. Crossland, we're not conducting official business in our working group meetings.
Correct.
Right.
So for that reason, I think that having our meetings and reporting back as you did, Chair, to this body is effective. I don't need to see the transcript between you and the council's office on the 3 buckets. You give us a report which we decide to accept and then move on. That's the point of these public meetings. So I think that's sufficient for the working group work, and the public hearings are something separate, something different. So meeting on Zoom, I think is enough for group 2, second and fourth Thursdays at 1 o'clock.
Second or fourth Thursday?
Second
And fourth.
Okay. So Commissioner Bobo.
Can you remind them what their group
Yes, I'm
theme
going
is?
to do that
Okay,
now.
perfect, thanks.
Group 2 has the bucket of incorporation, legislation, and taxes. They're going to meet virtually on the second and fourth Thursday at 1 p.m.
And I'll just note, there'll be several changes to that because of Thanksgiving and Christmas
Right.
holidays.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's our plan.
Yes,
Right.
indeed.
I thought earlier when I wrote them down, it was different for those categories. That's why I'm
They were written,
confused.
they were mentioned in a different order,
In the- yeah.
but
Right.
in the documents, they're listed in the.
Okay, yeah, I was momentarily disoriented, sorry.
The third group is myself, Commissioner Sheridan, Commissioner Bobo. And I'll let you all lead the determination on what days we meet and how we meet.
Commissioner Bobo?
I'm good with mid-afternoon, as long as I'm given enough, yeah. So virtually, mid-afternoon towards the latter part of the week is best for me. Would that potentially work for both of you?
Mid-afternoon on Wednesdays and Thursdays are usually best. Fridays get a little bit troublesome with travel. Yeah.
Wednesdays can be good for me.
Okay. Wednesday, when you say mid-afternoon, what time is that?
Okay, good question. To specify 1 to about 3:30 or 4.
So will we want a start time at 1 p.m., 2 p.m., or 3 p.m.? Probably the middle.
2 p.m. would be
Okay.
2 p.m., okay.
lovely.
Monthly, once a month or twice a month?
Up to you all.
I'm open. Do you have a preference?
I don't have a preference. So I can do once or twice. It doesn't, I'm not opposed to one or the other.
Group one, you're meeting how frequently? Once a month or twice a month?
They're meeting
They're
once.
meeting
Once, and then group two is
Group two
meeting
is
twice? Okay.
Look at the articles in your section. The
Yeah.
Right.
mayor, the courts. It's
I'm fine either way.
That is a huge decision.
It's at me now, huh? Okay.
Yes, it's like you.
Why don't we start with twice a month?
Okay.
I think there's a lot to get through, so,
Absolutely.
okay.
So,
I'm just gonna mention as an aside that you have myself and Comptroller Green as here, the board has been fortunate for the city of St. Louis on Wednesdays at 2.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. Thanks.
Was looking at my calendar and kind of noticing that it's not every week.
Mhm.
And I don't.
Is there a way that we can just add a new day of the week or something? Because, I mean, there's just a lot going on.
so that,
If we kept it to a tight hour.
At 1.
If you could get it to an hour.
the goal is to keep it to an hour. Hopefully. Thursday
Does not work for you, okay. So if we do Wednesdays at 1 and kept it to a tight hour, does that work for you all?
I think for you, Commissioner Bobo, it has to be a tight hour, right?
Yeah, okay. 1 p.m. twice a month on Wednesdays. Okay, and which Wednesdays?
weeks? Yeah.
You want to do 2nd and 4th for now?
With group three's schedule of 2nd and 4th. Yeah.
Yep, that'll work,
That works.
Great.
because we have this meeting on the first Wednesday.
Okay, so Commissioner Bobo, for recap, Group 3 is meeting virtually on 2nd and 4th Wednesdays at 1 p.m.
Slight modification for Group 2. Would it be possible to do it consistently at 1:30 instead of 1? How long do we expect the meeting to last? I guess that's the question.
59 minutes.
59 minutes. A tight hour, is that
Yes.
what it is?
Yes. Can you do 1:30?
Sure.
Does that work? Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Bobo, did you get the change?
Yes, I captured that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I wanted to open the floor to any discussion related to the work group structure and your actual articles in your groups that were assigned, and any of that. I know that Commissioner Sheridan and I have, asked a lot of the questions or the details or, communicated it. But if you all have any questions related to the articles assigned, the dates, times, and the structure in which we'll be working, including virtually and the video and transcription, all of those details and things, if we could discuss those things at this time, that would be great before we move into the next item on the agenda for public comment.
I have a couple questions. I just want to confirm, because this is not an official, since the working group is not an official meeting, then we don't have to follow all of the parliamentarian rules and all of that kind of stuff. This is simply a working group. Is that correct?
Commissioner Garth might stop in there and tell you not to do something.
This means he has to attend every meeting to keep us on track.
Well, I was wanting to clarify this to make sure that and that we are we responsible for having a note taker and having someone then to coordinate the working group?
It's a function on the recording that can transcribe it for you, so you're not having to take notes and all of those things while the meeting is happening. I've outlined a framework of questions and things you all can work through during the work groups, but there's no itemized way or regulation or stipulation on how to navigate the discussion or conversation for amendments. The timeline and the deadlines is more so what's important for the entire commission.
One thing that I would offer, even if that's totally fine in terms of not needing that kind of strict note taking like we would, I do think it would be really helpful for us to have some common structure for how research that's gathered, experts that we're looking towards, like that those do get processed in some way that can then be shared with the full commission. So I think that'll be helpful both for consideration of the recommendations, but also then when we have to do like public awareness building around it. And so I've seen that be really successful in the past. So I'm wondering if there's something like that we could set up.
So we put in there, I put in there that each different work groups would appoint or communicate what research you would need or what special meetings you want organized, and we would vote on those in this forum related to who you all want to hear from, who you want a presentation from or a briefing from, and we vote like we have the past couple meetings on who those special meetings will go to for that month. And the commission staff have done well with organizing our Google folders and our system related to how we access the research and the documents and everything provided to us. So it's on an ongoing basis. Those folders will be separated by work group, and everything for your articles related to the research, the data, the surveys that are going to come from the committees that we set up will all be organized for you with readily accessible button clicks for your meeting.
Yeah, the Google Drive is great. I think I was maybe suggesting maybe we could like have one standard further of like how, if we do want to collect that information, or if people use resources that are instructional, informational, that we could put them in a repository somewhere. But,
for the public. Is that what you're speaking of?
both and for our future use, so it's documented in a place.
So we're working on that I meet separately with the city council, the part-time commission staff, and we're working diligently on making sure that all information that we work with is also made available to the public via a repository of such. So we can discuss what you want to be made public and how you want it to be made public. But for now, everything that we document and everything that's available to us will equally be available to the public.
Would it be helpful if I come up with some type of draft or a list of this is how we might want to consider operating these work groups, or what do you think would be helpful to kind of standardize it?
Yeah, I think if it's just that, if there are a set of things that each work group could make sure, if you you all use this report,
Got
you know,
it.
that's not necessarily presented to the public meeting, that there's a place to note that, because I've seen that later on when you have to defend them,
Right,
or
right.
think about that it's helpful to have that in a space.
So a report outline, a framework of what we're discussing or how we're discussing it in the work groups being made public. Is that what you're speaking to?
Or just kind of almost like a rubric or something to follow for us to be able to share at a later date why we're coming up with certain recommendations.
Yeah,
that
if
kind of-
they're reports, references, resources, other cities that we're looking to.
Had that
uh,
resource repository. Okay.
I think that's fair.
That works.
Will any of the non-voting members of the commission be part of these working groups?
Yes, they have been assigned as well.
Okay, and so does Group 2 have anyone assigned to us at this point?
Commissioner
Mr.
Gracia
Garcia.
and Commissioner Hummel.
Christine? Oh, okay, good. That's what I want. I wasn't sure.
Does another member of my working group know how to use Google Meet, or can we use Zoom?
Well, I never heard whether we absolutely had to use Zoom or Google Meet. There was a question about which was which, right?
I'm asking specifically, we can use Zoom. I can't use Google Meet.
Google Meet, but I will work together to confirm whether or not we can use Google Meet. I just want to be sure.
Yeah, all things being equal, I prefer Zoom, but that's just me.
I
No
agree.
question. Yeah. What would a sidebar discussion be?
So, related to transparency, if everything is done in a meeting forum that has been scheduled, planned, and prepared for, that is how we do all discussion with all persons involved with this process, so that the public has access to all of it. In my definition, sidebar conversations, in my experience, have been everything outside of the structure format of meetings.
Okay, so commissioners can't meet, talk socially or otherwise outside of this about commission work?
I think as it relates to the Sunshine Law, I don't believe that is,
Commissioners can meet individually and discuss as long as they're not conducting official business of the commission. So it's not illegal for, you know, if I run into you in the street and we're like, oh, you know, looking forward to that next one, or this is how the last one went. It's more if there's like official
You're actually
things to vote on, or, you
Or
know,
you're voting
stuff like
for it.
that, yeah.
I'll vote for this if you vote for that.
Right, but that's not what policy 2 says. So it says something very different than that. It says that there's no sidebar discussions or private meetings to occur regarding commission work.
so the language is related to the business of the commission. So the sidebar discussions or meetings or any of that occurring that are about commission business should not. That's what policy 2 is speaking to. I will update the language regarding it, but that is what it's speaking to. It's making sure that all commission business of any kind is conducted within the commission meeting forum that we've outlined.
I mean, I think I know when we had our Sunshine Law presentation, there was discussion about, and I can't remember what the technical word was, but, you know, essentially me having a meeting with one commissioner and then going to have another meeting, with trying to build a coalition through individual meetings. I think that is not appropriate. But I don't think it's inappropriate for Commissioner Dwight and I to grab coffee and say, how are things going on the commission, and talking about commission activities and work that is not related to trying to drive an agenda or anything along those lines. By the way, we've never gotten back. We need to have coffee, but maybe now we can't. So, but
You never got back to me either?
But so, I think some clarity around that, because I think it is helpful for us to be able to interact with each other outside of the commission and just in the nature of doing business and being citizens of the region.
I thought the standard was when 4 of us or more gather together, that constitutes a public meeting. Anything outside of that, we can conduct without conducting business. Are we adding additional policies to that?
There's no additional policy, so there's no
Okay.
additional policy to what's already in place.
Okay.
The concept of policy 2 is to make sure we are consistently and regularly transparent pertaining to all commission business. And that we are conducting the work of the commission within the scheduled platforms that we have. That is all it is, that is all it entails. So making sure that we are not discussing any commission business outside of or in connection to outside of. So we don't want any, we said problems. We don't want any issue to arise related to the Sunshine Law or anything else pertaining to discussing commission business or conducting commission business
So let me ask
outside
again.
of our platform.
So, for example, we're in group 2, we're meeting twice a month. We meet, for example, next Thursday, decide we need a third meeting this month to prepare for our report for the official meeting for the first Wednesday of November. That's not allowed because it's outside of our regularly scheduled.
No, it is considered a work group for the commission where commission business is being conducted. Where we are working on the amendments of, so I'm trying not to allude to corruption, but that's basically what we want to avoid. We're going to avoid any issue pertaining to the work that we're doing that is not in alignment with what we've been appointed for.
Can I make a possible recommendation? Or make a recommendation, it's not a possible recommendation, it's just a recommendation if you like it or not. Would it be helpful, and I'm willing to do this, if we are meeting with other commissioners outside of scheduled meetings, to just put them on our Google Calendar that's associated with our account, so that if I am having coffee with Commissioner Dwight, it's a public, there's public record of us having coffee, and that's shouldn't be an issue. Unless we're being nefarious, which we aren't.
From my experience, I think we are stretching Sunshine a little farther than
Yeah.
what is actually
I would agree.
it is actually relevant to. It is, if a quorum of commissioners were to come together and discuss business, that would be a violation. For us to run into each other and talk about it, or even
Yeah.
Commissioner Sheridan was saying, like, to be like, how's it going for you? That's not a violation. It's not a violation for us to get together and talk about the commission. It's if we are conducting business, we're making decisions, we're trying to whip votes, we're like that level of decision making that would usually be reserved for a full group meeting is what Sunshine Law is trying to prevent happening in secret.
Does that make sense?
I don't think that's what this says, but I agree that is what we're following.
Okay.
Yes.
So the language will be updated
Yeah.
to reflect.
It would be best to not try to overthink the Sunshine Law or anything like that, because that's what's happening. It's kind of like because it's okay to actually meet one-on-one and just talk and all of that. You're not conducting business. And I believe the policies here that the chair instituted were just basically germane to the main meeting of the commission itself. Not so much that, oh, you can't do thus or that or the third.
Correct.
In policy 7, submit the recommendation to the commission via email within our email exchange. Is that what you're talking about? So that you copy every member and the
Yes.
other members, okay. And you want that 2 weeks prior to the meeting with a
the meeting.
recommendation only?
Yes,
Okay.
so it gives everyone enough time to see what the work group decides you want to amend. And if there's any other discussion or additional amendment items, sentences, I've had people add periods, that the other commission members can do so prior to the public meeting, so we're not spending the public meeting doing those type of belaboring things.
And all amendment forms, which I'm taking it are proposed amendments, the submitting it with 3 draft amendment forms, what is the purpose of that?
So over the course of the year, we'll do 3 updated drafts. and you'll just submit your one draft for the deadline for each draft. So to translate that, from this period to January, you're working on one draft and one document, and your group decides to update that as you so choose. The next deadline or the next benchmark is the second draft, and you're working on another document for that draft. Or you may decide that you're using the same document, but it's just your second draft of that amendment. So forth into the third one. So it's just terminology related to the 3 drafts that we're going to do on each amendment
So that
over the course of the
people will
year.
see the progression of the thought process?
Yes.
Okay.
So the thought process is the public will see the progression of where you start with the first draft. When we attend the public meeting, we get the feedback. Everybody in the commission adds their feedback. They'll be able to see where the work group took into consideration, added things, removed things, and the process of progression onto the third draft before it's final.
And is the third draft the final form?
Yes, the third draft will be your final update to each amendment.
And what are process questions?
So your process questions is anything related to the department, the elected official, or the division that you have process questions related to them pertaining to what you're amending.
So those are the questions at the top of this document, so, okay. Very good.
So all of your questions framework, I tried to provide you with a question framework for amending based on the research I've done pertaining to charter reform. And it's in alignment with some more recommendations we got from the city council's office that I happen to like related to innovation and these types of things that are in alignment with how charter reform particularly happens. I just gave you some questions and some base points on how to go about answering those questions for each article's amendment.
Could I propose another question to add to it? This is something that the county health department did when they were considering policy changes, but they just, in addition to like some questions about like what's the purpose for it, you know, as you've outlined, they just have a question that's like, will this change in policy negatively impact historically marginalized groups? And then another question below that that's like, are there any ways that it could be changed to promote equity and justice? So it just was a prompt for them to, as they're thinking about any
Consider
policy
it.
changes, to consider it. Yeah.
So equity consideration. I believe the wording
I could message it to you if
Yeah,
that's helpful.
message it to me so I can add that question. I believe it'll be in opportunities for innovation and improvement. We'll add an equity question to each of them. And I'll try to remove some of the another question that kind of layers it. It just doesn't specify marginalized communities or individuals.
Yeah.
I would actually recommend that it be under work group amendment evaluation. So we're evaluating the amendment through that lens
I agree.
of equity and looking at the impact on historically marginalized groups. My thought.
Yeah. So Commissioner Dwight, if you could send me that, I'll add that.
Absolutely.
And I'll add it to each of the buckets of amendment processes to review.
Will do.
Make sense? We good down here?
Yes.
I know it's a lot to review. We're reviewing a lot at one time. Are there any additional discussion, recommendations, suggestions, or questions prior to us? Okay. Thank you, Shayna. I'm gonna go back to the chair's report and entertain a motion to approve the I amended an agenda template, and I amended a public hearing a public hearing template, and I amended an amendment form. So I amended 3 different documents for our process, but the primary one that we're concentrated on now is the amendment form. The amendment form is what I would need to entertain a motion on approving that form, which is also in the process bundle that we're all referring to right now. I believe it's at the bottom.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So at this time, I'm gonna entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Would you entertain any, just like equity considerations or anything like that on
I'm
this
gonna
form?
insert all equity.
Cool.
for
I know we
commission.
talked about it in the evaluation
Yeah.
question list.
I'm
just
gonna
wanted
add
to
it.
put there.
I think it's worth, yeah, me noting
Yeah.
it too.
I also think I'll go into discussion of that. It's a motion on the floor. All right. He gave me the look over his glasses.
Well, we're in discussion now, though, right?
No, we're not discussing now. We are, with a motion on the floor. It's been properly moved and seconded. All commissioners in favor
So wait, there's
of,
no discussion.
Wait,
like you said?
Yeah, we need to
There is-
discuss.
Now there's discussion.
So,
Now there's discussion.
now
There's
there's
been second.
discussion on this.
Right.
Yes.
okay, so you can move to a discussion after the motion. So if there's a motion, you can ask for a discussion, then second, and then vote.
Discussion.
Go ahead.
We already did that.
Yeah, it's been moved and seconded.
We
Yeah.
moved and
What were you
seconded.
gonna say?
Nothing.
You said you stopped.
I didn't.
Okay.
I don't believe if I did, I totally forgot now.
Okay.
Bring on.
Go ahead.
Your proposed changes were what? I don't have the original in front of me. I
My
have this.
proposed changes to the amendment form. I really don't think I changed anything. Shana, are you aware of any changes I made to it?
I didn't see any.
I believe I just
This one.
added it to this bundle. I don't think
I
I
didn't see
changed anything.
Oh, okay.
So there's addition
that
to
looks different.
supporting documents, evidence, data, research,
Okay.
to support the amendment that, was added, and there's addition and policies, procedures,
What's that?
structures, and process.
It's in her chair report.
Okay. So it's that supplemental recommendation aspect of information per article. That's what's been added. So what's been added is just the supporting information that we've utilized to amend or update an article. And I added that so that, again, we're not amending articles based on anything outside of the facts pertaining to that article. That's why that was added.
And did Commissioner Dwight ask for an equity piece to be added to this proposed amendment?
Yes, he did.
Charter, okay.
Which I will add to both the process questions, the amendment framework, and the proposed amendment form.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was that, Commissioner?
We're adding, there's gonna be an insertion related to marginalized
I understood
communities
that,
equity
yes.
added to the amendment form.
This form?
Yes,
Okay.
so
Very,
I'll add it.
very good. What does commission use only, that's filled out by the city councilor?
That's filled out by all of us.
Oh,
So
by
I
the s-
believe Secretary Bobo will complete it
Okay,
for all of
all right.
us.
Yeah.
Very good.
Any other discussion pertaining to this motion?
So just to clarify, was the motion amended to include Commissioner Dwight's recommendation of incorporating an equity question and statement on here?
Yes.
Okay.
So, does this mean that charter amendments can be submitted by folks outside of this commission?
No, this is for us to complete. The amendment form is for us to complete within our work groups. It's not for the public to complete.
And then, why do we then say for commission use only?
Because we have to vote. Go ahead.
Oh, I was
Oh.
just pointing, like, for the staff to document a variety of, here's the day it was proposed, here's when, if it was
It's
voted
checks
on.
and balances.
Yeah.
So to streamline it, basically, that's what the for commission use only was already on there for. It's checks and balances to make sure that we actually voted on the approved amendment before submitting it for ballot. I'm certain that that's what that section of the form is for.
It's for record
But,
keeping.
yeah.
And continuity.
But if it's not for checks and balances, can we clarify that?
The public, pursuant to the ordinance, is able to submit submissions as well.
Yeah.
Just not necessarily like through this.
You can decide that you want the public this to be available, and the
Yeah.
public can submit that way as well. It's you're crafting the process, so
As we speak. So I think that that's a second motion, if we want the public to complete their proposed amendment forms on the website or however we decide to process that. But the motion on the floor is for the amendment form to be approved as it is with the addition of the
Yes,
equity
I'm
section.
still unclear as to when we say for commission use only as a check and balance, it's hard for me to imagine that a check and balance is a member of the commission checking and balancing the commission.
I think we more just mean it's like a record-keeping section.
But why does it, but for what purpose?
So, like,
I mean,
you
I'm
know,
assuming
group-
the entire thing is a
Purpose
record
says
keeping.
vote to advance to ballot, and then the other above that says data proposal initial consideration, vote to advance to full consideration.
So say
So
Commissioner and Garth and I.
These questions relate back to your rules of order and procedure.
Yeah.
That require you to move things in a different way.
Right, understood, but again, for commission use only, I mean, isn't the entire form for commission use only?
Well, I think it's more just like wording, wordsmithing, but, you know, if Commissioner Garth and I propose an amendment, we'd fill out the top part of this
Right.
form, and then when it came to the full commission, that's when the chair or vice chair might note,
Okay.
you know, in that section at the bottom, it was voted on, it got yes, no, and it went through the first round, the second round.
Okay, all right.
You need any more clarity to that? Or would you like it to say something different or be a different process?
I just wanted to, I mean, so it's a two-stage, that's fine. No, yeah,
Okay.
Is there any more discussion pertaining to the motion that is on the floor? Okay. So it's appropriate at this point to take the vote?
Yes.
All right. All commissioners in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All commissioners opposed?
It passes.
Thank you. Do I have any more proposed motions that I need to pass or I need to ask for?
Can I just ask, I know somebody mentioned that this is, the public may also be able to use, if we could decide that the public uses this type of format to submit charter recommendations, I think, but that should be something that we discuss once we come up with the
Yeah.
process a bit more, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think it's a different form that
Okay.
the public would submit for their proposed amendment.
got it.
Because
Okay.
some of the questions wouldn't be pertinent to the public.
Sure. Okay.
So I will do the due diligence of working with the executive team to create what the public's proposed amendment form is. I'll make sure that it gets to the city commission staff and that it's on the site so that it can be utilized as we're going through our process for the public to complete a separate form and process. But this was strictly for the commission. But I will make a different form and process for the public to submit proposed amendments.
And that will come back before the entire commission for approval,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yeah, I really like that. Like a Google form that's not exactly this, but you know, generally like this, and I think that's a good like baseline across the process. You know, there'll be other public hearings and other ways that we engage people, but at base across the process, people can propose amendments.
There's, I don't know if you all saw it in the work group bundle, but in the preparation of the committees that we're going to form and the surveys and things that I'm going to work with the Charter Commission staff on dispersing to the entire public is really to get some of that intel and that position and perspective that we need and want pertaining to the articles from the public. So those are some things that I'm working on with the commission staff to complete and distribute for us. And we will get the data pertaining to those surveys and those polls and those things. Your groups will have access to them. But I'm doing all the work for you pertaining to that, so you don't have to do that. But you'll have access to what the responses to the surveys and the polls and all of that is for your particular articles and work groups.
I really appreciate all the work that you're doing on it. If you like, yeah, if there's ways that we can like support on it, or you know, provide any input or thoughts on it, like happy to do that. And I wonder if for the public hearings, it could be, they don't always have to just be like people speaking on the mic, and there could be like some creative ways that we approach doing some of those things.
I would actually prefer innovative creativity, especially with the space of technology related to the public interacting with us pertaining to the articles and what they say and what we would prefer them to say going forward. I would far more appreciate their interaction and input, but we have to design those things. We have to determine what those things are, and I think from the work groups, you all will be working on what that needs to look like for us and for your particular articles and things like that so that we can implement them.
Can we have as a future agenda item a public outreach and communication discussion as the commission? I mean, especially as the work groups are doing their individual work, you know, as an entire body talking, you know, coming together and talking about what that outreach plan and strategy is going to be, and what innovative, creative things we're going to recommend. Can we do that at a future meeting?
I think the commission staff has a meeting for that particular purpose.
Okay.
So that we can keep these meetings consistent with what the article discussion is supposed to be. So the meeting with the commission staff is where all of the outreach, marketing, advertising, PR, all of that engagement aspects are happening. That meeting is scheduled bi-weekly. It's on everyone's calendar. So everyone that wants to participate in that work and how that's being done, you are invited to attend that bi-weekly meeting with the commission staff so we can get some of those logistical things implemented. But we did not put it on the agenda for the public meeting so that we can keep this work consistent with the article amendments.
So as long as no more than 4 of us participate, we'll be okay?
Yes.
Okay. Or 5 of us, 4 or 5. No more than 4.
Okay. Are we okay on the discussion for that particular topic?
Yep.
The next item on the agenda is public comment. And we have one public comment, I believe, from one public comment form from Jerry
Connolly.
Yep.
You have to recognize me, Chair.
I am going to his form.
There you go.
Thank you.
You want me to send it to you?
I have it here.
No, we got it up on the computer. Okay, this time we'll hear from Jerry Connolly pertaining to his public comment and his speaker slip form for the City Charter Commission.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In terms of innovation, I think making sure we do the basics right is really important. My hearing's pretty decent, but I have a hard time hearing some of the remarks from Commissioner Riley, Commissioner Tagliato, and I don't know if that's the positioning of the mics inside this room, but you know, I'm just having a hard time hearing her from here. I'm not sure how it's going to get picked up on the TV. And same with City Councilor and Mr. Bradstreet over here. It's difficult to hear. And so if we're going to be out in public forums in other locations, I think that's really important that we have, you know, we're catering to people, you know, these audio visual needs, you know, may not be as very so. I heard a comment which was, we're kind of overthinking the Sunshine Law. Basically, I kind of feel we just got to follow it, as in you as a commission have to follow it. And there was 10 minutes spent discussing issues regarding how these meetings would be held by the working groups, and I didn't hear City Councilor Hamilton consulted during that, and I think we're meeting in September 6th, we went into closed session for a sunshine law training. Is there a way we can have that training repeated in open session? I just feel very frustrated. I'm not confident that what's being discussed in closed fully qualifies for that. And 4 years ago, there's a lawsuit against the city brought by Mark Petroleum, the Sunshine Local Government organization, and Alan Hoffman is a plaintiff on that. That was filed in December 2019. That suit still hasn't been settled. And one of the things brought forth in that suit was the conduct of business in closed session that should be taking place in open. And that's a count in that lawsuit. And I would just caution staff here and the commissioners to make sure that the sunshine law is being followed. I think some of the things you talked about regarding transparency are commendable. I think the idea of having documents that are well organized, that are accessible to the public, that reflect your deliberations, that's excellent. And I think part of that, today's meeting package should have been available to the public. The minutes, the draft minutes from that September 6th meeting, any kind of the formal resolution, I think it was item 3 that we were voting on. That should be part of the package here. It should be available online. So I strongly recommend that you come up with some fun procedures and proceed quickly. I'm still a little confused as to what the final outcome was regarding the working groups. My personal recommendation would be those meetings are conducted via Zoom. They are accessible to the public, so the public can observe them taking place on Zoom, and then they would then be posted to YouTube. I don't think it's a working group. I don't think it's essential that it be live streamed. You and your colleagues are STL TV could only be in so many places at once. But others, like SODC, for example, their development boards are live on Zoom, and they get uploaded to the SODC YouTube channel probably about 2 or 3 days later. I think that process is acceptable. When you're having a full group where you're taking public input, that's a situation where I think that should be, in a live stream format as well. Other logistics for meeting here, it's accessible on public transit. When there's an event downtown, the meters roll over to, I don't know, $5 an hour or something at 6 p.m. So I'm looking at a ticket potentially. But just bear that in mind. What are the provisions for people to, attend and access these meetings without presenting too many barriers.
Thank you, Jerry.
That concludes my comments. I put down board DNA. I'll get to that another time.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry. Commissioner Hamilton, do you have any response related to the Sunshine Law presentation being done again in public? Do any?
I would just like to add that the Board of Aldermen is working with STL-TV. We have issues not only with the Charter Commission, but any remote meetings that the city's currently having to try and figure out what technology they need to make sure that we can get things back on track in terms of people being able to hear. We realize it's an issue, and it's not ideal. So hopefully I'll have some better information on that soon. And we should, within the next few weeks, have our tech upgrades completed in our hearing room at the Board of Aldermen, and so there will be an opportunity if the commission chooses to move there, which will also be easier for parking accommodations.
Do we have, well, I guess I can speak to the sound in the systems and those things in the staff meeting that we have scheduled. I have some ideas pertaining to miking that we can discuss at that point. Any commissioners have any discussion, recommendations, input regarding the public comment?
I do think some of the, like, what materials can we have printed out for people attending to refer to or have online? I think is a good suggestion.
And I do think I think we, all three of the working groups decided to have their meetings either through Google Meet or Zoom, open to the public to participate. They just won't be live streamed on STL TV and then uploaded following the meeting. That is accurate, right? That is
Just to clarify, I think we agreed that the public would be able to participate by watching, but not participate by talking.
Correct. But they'd be available for viewing.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll make it available. We'll make it available and documents for ongoing meetings available in the process. I'll do with this item and the miking. Okay. Any further discussion pertaining to the public comment? Okay. I am in position for item number 7 on the agenda to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All commissioners in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All commissioners opposed? Got it, Commissioner Bobo? Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, STL TV.
And thank you, public.
Thank you, public.